Good morning. This is Ann Diener, and we have the ongoing saga with the subpoena power and the Office of Disciplinary Counsel in Washington, D.C., and it's not their fault at all. What I found out this morning is basically that that office is a very small office, and as large as D.C. is, and if you know anything about my data collection, it is huge. They do not have subpoena power. They have very limited abilities. It's kind of like Washington, D.C. is equal to a town of about 500. That's how they treat them there. That's what that office is set up for. And that makes it an easy, and it's not their fault. I spoke with the representative I was speaking with, and basically she said that when she was in Washington State, they had deposition power, they had all kinds, they had the ability to subpoena witnesses, and it's only in Washington, D.C. that they have very limited power. I mean, I'm sure in other smaller areas, smaller states, they have limited powers too, but in Washington State they had deposition capabilities as well. So the election convictions and bringing Robert Mueller in there and working for like the micro targeting conviction and depositions against the election thieves, as well as a lot could be done there in Washington D.C. at the Office of Disciplinary Counsel if it was a full-fledged office and treated as one of the largest offices in the country. In reality, if they had full capabilities there as far as calling witnesses, subpoena power, depositions, not just limited banking records, they could actually think about all the big players in Washington, D.C. that like to get over on the American voter. They're all there, and their addresses are there. Many cases could be brought forward out of that office. And so it's really significant that such a big player area is treated so insignificantly, like a tiny state, maybe like Alaska. Alaska probably has even a larger office than there. And when you think about the cases that could be made there, so this morning, Donald Trump is legally and lawfully deposed as of August 8th of 2017. I technically became the president. Um, I thought it was to make the Bush convictions and to complete the deposition process, and I continue forward, but I do want to make a difference. And so I am going to attempt an executive order um, to, to, um, to mandate that that office be the size and offer the capabilities that it would for the capacity of individuals that could be prosecuted or processed through that office. If it was that size, it would probably be the largest in the country. Think about all the lobbying firms that could be brought in that conduct illegal activities. It could be used for depositions, subpoenas, and that could make the largest difference in this whole country, is bringing that office up to full-fledged capabilities. I'm wondering what the state of New York, I'm almost tempted to get on the phone and find out what the state of New York's capabilities are as far as the Office of Disciplinary Counsel. Do they, like, I mean, obviously they would have subpoena power and the ability to call witnesses, and also the ability to enter in deposition testimony. Their office should probably be on the scale of that based on the clients and the people that are in town there in Washington, D.C. And that could be what makes the difference from being able to call people on issues that are very significant. I mean, if you think about it, we have 328 million Americans. Currently, we need to make our election convictions, and those are cross-check, micro-targeting, and debolt. And I sent a letter into the D.C. bar, and they couldn't handle taking Robert Mueller in there to make those convictions, to force depositions and real testimony against the election theft. Congressional members obviously didn't want to make the election convictions. Some did. 289 congressional members did want to make the election convictions, and that's so America votes. And when you think about it, Donald Trump stole election 2016. He stole election 2016 a long time ago. And then being seated, there were all kinds of negotiations against you, financially, behind your back. He negotiated with the Russian oligarchs to bankrupt us. There were all kinds of, and we have our gold standard and our money back, but will they be delivered to the American people? It's like everyone in America, and then if you think about this whole COVID crazy stuff that's going on, it was created in a lab, from my understanding, and it's a very sophisticated thing, just as a lot of these things they have are. And those are things that actually, wherever they're located, could be brought in. Basically, it's terrible what they've done. Who assesses liability against the perpetrator? And that's been the big issue in our country, is how do we achieve justice? And justice is the most important thing for the American voter. When an election is stolen from you, even if it's the same party, let's say Donald Trump stole election 2016 and he wanted to bankrupt Republicans to steal from them, and they didn't know, and he partnered with the Russian oligarchs in the background. What is the impact on the voter? As we sit here with almost no money and Americans are receiving only $1,200 back, some families got more, but most people are pretty much broke. Who's going to pay back the American people? And who holds them to account? It is campaign season. Who stands up for the voter? So it's time to actually move forward. And one thing I am going to move forward on is attempting an executive order to make that office a full-fledged office, to the scale and size that is needed for the constituency it serves, which would probably make it one of the largest in the country. So a lot of depositions can be filed there, and people in town, in D.C., will be a lot more ethical. Have a good day and stay safe, and may we all get to vote again this November, and hopefully someone will make our election convictions. Pre-2020, we did have our voting machines hacked back then, and that does corroborate with the data sheets I had. I did intensive analysis, and that showed the hacking, and those hackers were arrested in Russia. And here we have our voting machines this time. It'll be interesting to know if they do include that Dragon software. I found out the ballot marking devices. I'm wondering if they just did a small intro on them. But from my understanding, it was the same. It was likely Robert Mercer's company. And we know that he micro-targets people on the back end. He was tracked in Mauritania before hacking into Americans' computers, and to find out about their voting interests and to find ways to dissuade them from voting for those interests. And later on, those were used against Republicans, likely in Iowa through Steve Bannon. And see, these are some of the things that need to be brought forward, the voting issues, and they should be taken state by state. But in D.C., the voting issues should start there with the individuals who are policymakers who set out to make these voting convictions, or who are refusing. In my opinion, I guess maybe I should send this out to each state, and as I continue to work for American voters, to actually vote in 2020 so we have an elected representative government, and that our money back, your tax money, is actually delivered to the American people. We have a constitutional country. No matter who is in command, 328 million American citizens count on constitutionalism, and that should be enforced by every single American. Because we have a right to free speech, we have a right to make a difference every day, and we have a right to take a stand for our votes to count, so that we have elected representative government. And because I became president, I do care for your rights, and I received this letter, so I continue to follow up. Executive order is on the way. Hopefully we'll have a full-fledged office. At least it's a start. If not, at least it's on the table. Have a good morning.